Hey guys, how's it going? Srey here. Today I want to talk about Tychus. So Tychus is a fun hero for several reasons, and he's pretty unique in terms of his role in the game. So he's one of the, if not the only, anti-tank heroes in the game, and that's because his passive by default does percent damage to a single target that he's attacking. And that compounded with the fact that he has the fastest attack speed in the game, tied with Zarya. He attacks 4 times per second. Other heroes attack maybe around 1 per second, a bit more, a bit less. And he's a really strong anti-tank, and he's one of the premier ranged DPS heroes in the game. So he's kind of tied with Vala. So Vala is better overall and kind of fits into more comps because she has better sustained AoE damage. And Tychus, again, really only has single target damage. So he lacks wave clear and he lacks AoE damage. And he's generally not a hero you only want to have one DPS on the team with. So like Vala, you can run as a single DPS, but with Tychus, you should definitely have another DPS on your team, at least a ranged DPS. And he's really strong against a lot of front lines. So right now in the meta, we have the Hawk and Diablo, who have seen a lot of popularity, and of course there's still ETC and Muradin and all these other tanks. But those two tanks have resurfaced and given way to a lot of frontline, a lot of tanks in the meta. And Tychus is really the only range hero that is really good at dealing with that. And that's one, like I said, because he does percent damage, which is really strong. Two, he's actually quite mobile and he has grenade knockback and he has his Q to kite, so he's very mobile and good at kiting. Three, he has insanely high base health. So right now you can see that he has 4,200 health, and how much do you think Vala has off the top of your head? Vala has about 2,700 health. So he has significantly more health than like Vala. Vala is a lot easier to kill than Tychus, and Tychus has, in a way, more mobility, and Tychus also has resistance built into his kit, at least at certain parts with his talents. So let's go over his abilities really quickly. So his Q is Overkill, and basically what he does is you can target a hero with it, and it does damage over 4 seconds, and it does a lot of damage to the single target that you're hitting, and it does moderate damage to in an AoE. So let's target these minions here. You can see that it'll do a little bit of damage to targets around, but it doesn't do nearly as much damage as to the main target. You can also use abilities during this. So you can see here I can use my grenade and it doesn't interrupt and I can dash. So you can't auto attack while using overkill, but you can use your abilities and walk around normally. So you can see it has a radius or a range on it. And the other interesting thing is that you can also hit enemies from out of vision. So it'll auto target enemies even if they're not in vision, as long as you initially selected them. So if I go around the corner here, it'll still target the same hero or whatever your target is. So this is um, his main kind of DPS ability for his QWE, and it's also useful for wave clearing. So you can just Q a minion, and it'll automatically clear the wave. So you generally want to target the back minions, but you basically just clear the wave by queuing. It does have a fairly long cooldown, 15 seconds. It lasts for 4 seconds, so it's a pretty lengthy cooldown. You can also retarget your selected target with overkill by just activating Q again. You can see that it'll switch targets there. Is W is frag grenade, and it just lobs a grenade that does damage, pretty good amount of damage, and it knocks enemies away. So this is useful for a variety of things. It's his main source of wave clear. It's his main source of poke. It's his you can interrupt cast times or interrupt casts. So say enemies are trying to cast nukes in your base on Warhead Junction, and you can interrupt that. You can interrupt Zebo's Ravenous Spirit and any other kind of channeled effects. You can also use it to nuke targets and just kind of do damage. So it has a variety of effects, and you can see that it also knocks heroes away. So you can use it. I mean, generally, it's not going to really help you to secure kills because the knockback isn't very much, but it can be helpful to disrupt enemies. You can also use it to, if you time it correctly, you can prevent ETC from power sliding or Muradin from jumping because it'll interrupt the cast animation. T is just a very simple dash. So you just, in the target direction, you just dash, and that's it. 10-second cooldown for that. It's not a lot of range, but it is some kind of mobility. So it's kind of boring, but it is a little bit of a dash. You obviously can't go over walls or anything with it either. So his D, his minigun, is basically his bread and butter, and it's kind of what Tychus is all about. So once you activate it, it has a 12-second cooldown. You activate your basic attacks against heroes. Also deal 2% of their max health per auto attack. So See that Tychus attacks 4 times per second. So you're going to get 8% per second up to 24% on a target, and that's quite a lot of damage. So you can see when I activate it, the gun will turn red, and it does significantly more damage. And so if you're fighting a Tychus, you're against Tychus, you never want to fight him when this is active. You always want to wait until it's been deactivated. So you can see here as well that if I press D on minigun, a little bit of flames will appear, but the ability isn't actually activated until you have attacked a target. So that's just a little quality of life thing. You don't actually want to proc it before you need to use it. So if you're in a fight, you want to use it. So let's go over Tychus's combo really quick. So when you're playing Tychus, the combo that you want to use basically looks like this. The most optimal way of using Tychus, right? So you go into a target, say you want to E into a target, right? So E in, immediately activate D. After it pops off, you'll activate Q, and then you can kite your enemy, and then you'll finish him with a grenade or something. And that's the most optimal combo when playing Tychus. You usually want to start with minigun and then use overkill, because you'll have better positioning in the initial part of the fight than when they run away, and overkill is really good for following, right? So if you try to chase a target, see if I can actually make it happen. Um, Maybe I can just chase a minion or something. Um, See Arthas here. I have to actually walk and chase him, and I won't get optimal auto attacking. So if I open up with D, you can see how much damage this does to Arthas. And then once he starts running, which is hopefully soon, you can chase him with overkill, and it's a really good way of guaranteeing a kill. And since it auto targets as well, you can run up to heroes all the way to the gate and get behind them to the gate here, and it'll keep auto targeting even if you don't have vision, and then you can throw your grenade and finish them off. That's basically the combo you want to do with Tychus. So let's go over talents. So talent wise, we have Press the Advantage, Dash, and Combat Technician at level 1. So Press the Advantage is what you want to take. It increases your attack range by 35% for 4 seconds. It's actually quite a lot. So you see here, if I go up to attack, this is his normal attack range, and if you use Dash in, it gives you a little bit of an indicator, and you can attack significantly further. And since it has a 4-second duration, and minigun lasts for 3 seconds, you'll definitely be able to use all of your minigun effectiveness while using Press the Advantage. So what you want to do is you want to like E into a fight, use your D, and then you can activate your Q right after this and get some damage. You can see that if I walk away from the target as well, overkill stops doing damage, but it'll still keep targeting. So the other options are dash, and it's basically after you collect 25 regen globes, you'll have 25% movement speed after you dash that lasts for 2 seconds and increases the range of running gun. So this is actually quite good. The problem is you have to stack it up. So 25 globes is quite a lot. Health regeneration master is 30 globes, and that's like a huge amount and almost never finishes stacking. So 25 is still really far up there, and you're basically just not going to get effectiveness out of this until very late into the game. So if you got the full effectiveness of this talent at level 1, you would definitely take it over Press the Advantage pretty much every time. But the fact is that taking that stacking talent it gives you pretty much no effectiveness out of this talent until later in the game. And Tychus is actually a really strong early game hero. Combat Technician is the other talent you can take, and it reduces the cooldown of running gun by 0.8 seconds every time you attack. And since Tychus has a very fast attack, you can see here that it actually significantly reduces the cooldown. So if I E in, see the cooldown is reduced very quickly. The problem with this though is that you're really not dashing around in fights. You're usually just kind of getting your D off and then using overkill, or you're using one of your ultimates to kite. So you're just not going to get that much effectiveness out of this. And you're like dashing this much usually doesn't help you that much in fights, and you're probably not going to be able to get full auto attacks off to be able to kite effectively enough to use this anyway.
Choose a talent.
Press Advantage level 1. Two options here are In the Rhythm and Bigger They Are. The ones you don't want to take are Fully Loaded and Master Assassin. So Master Assassin increases your attack speed by up to 25% once you finish the quest. And again, the problem with this is that, well, there's two problems. One is that it takes quite a long time to actually finish this quest. It's 15 hero takedowns. Of course, you don't have to get 15 takedowns yourself. It can just be an assist or anything like that. But you have to be in the area for 15 kills, and that's quite a lot. Sometimes you might not even get 15 in the game. So you might only get 10% instead of 25%, and that's just not even close that's not even close enough to making this talent effective. So even if you do finish this quest, it's 25% attack speed. So that makes your attack speed from 4 per second to 5 per second, and that's still like not that great. So even if this gave you 25% attack speed, it still wouldn't be that great. So fully loaded reduces the cooldown of minigun by 33%. That's nice, but the other options are better. So let's look at them. So the bigger they are, increases the damage bonus to 4% from 2%, which is a huge increase. But while enemies are below 40% health, it does not affect them. So once you shred a target to 40% health, you no longer do any damage to them. Now, that's not really a problem, and I'll show you why. If we toggle minions here, and we go up to Arthas, remember the optimal combo is to use your D first and then overkill after. So look how low Arthas gets taken down when I use my minigun. It gets taken down to about 40%, right? It's almost exactly 40%, and then minigun is done. So after 3 seconds, Arthas is at 40% health, and so you're not going to gain any more benefit from minigun. So even if it lasted longer, you basically take them down to 40% health. So you're not really losing out on any damage. Of course, that is just me, Tychus, doing damage to Arthas. So let's say I had allies now, right? Who are going to help me DPS Arthas. Well, it's going to take it down a lot faster, and then you might have overlap where minigun doesn't gain any effectiveness. But the combo you basically want to pull off again is you'd shred Arthas all the way down to 40% health, and then once he's low, you'd activate your Q, and you want to finish him off with your Q, some W auto attacks. And that you can one-hit tanks like that, especially once you have your 16 talents, which give you a bit more damage. But you can see that bigger they are, pretty much one-hits people. But there is a better option, and that option is in the rhythm. So while minigun is active, basic attacks against heroes permanently increase future minigun durations by 0.03 seconds. So how much is 0.03 seconds? Well, it's not really a lot, but over the course of the game, you're going to stack it up to like 8+ seconds additionally, like an additional 8 seconds. That's a lot. Like you can get up there. Even if you get an extra 3 seconds, that's, a 6-second duration on your minigun is a really long time, and 3 seconds is absolutely the bare minimum that you should be getting into. So you can significantly increase the duration of minigun to basically make it so you can permanently have minigun in the fight. And remember that because the duration is longer, and you compare it to the bigger they are, which doesn't do damage with low 40% targets. If the targets are all 40% health, right, and you want to act and you have a minigun available, you're not going to be able to kill them. You can't finish targets. That's what makes it really difficult. You have to use overkill or frag grenade to finish targets. So this can make it very difficult to finish the target that you're trying to kill. So in some situations, you might completely lose out on a team fight and get wiped because you can't finish heroes off because you have minigun available, but it doesn't do any damage to heroes that are below 40% health. So when do you want to take bigger they are? You want to take bigger they are when the enemy team has a lot of shields. So they have like a Zarya task, stuff like that, where constant shields are being applied, or you want to take it, or you can just burn down the shield faster. And generally though, what you really want to take it for is if you have pick comps, right? So if you have a lot of burst damage on your team and you're trying to burst targets down, because that'll really help you burst targets down. And if you have a lot of CC, where you just want to pick a target and kill a target and then continue in the fight, and that's really when you want to take it. So if you have a lot of CC, so you have an ETC Tyrande, and then you just burn that target down, and you don't need the extra duration of minigun because you're just trying to burst targets, and you're going to get the most effectiveness out of bigger they are. In all other situations, though, you want to get in the rhythm. The only other situation you wouldn't want to get in the rhythm is where they have a lot of threat on their team, and you can't stack the ability because you're constantly dying. And if they have a lot of ranged heroes as well, so for some reason they have 3 ranged heroes or maybe even 4, and they don't even have a tank, you might want to go the bigger they are because it's just going to be really, really hard to stack this. So this is better than the standard where they have double tank and you don't have a lot of burst in your team, and this is just majority of the time you want to take in the rhythm, but in some situations the bigger they are is better.
Choose a talent.
The other thing I want to talk about within the rhythm is that, so on the first stack you're going to get 0.39 seconds. Okay, so you can see that my first stack you'll get 0.39, and that doesn't seem like a lot, right? It's like not even half a second extra. But every time you stack this up, right? So now my next minigun will last 3.39 seconds. And you can see that you get exponentially more duration every time. So it's easier and easier to stack because the duration lasts longer and longer. So you'll get significantly more duration in the future, and you can get like up to, 3/4 of a second or even a second extra minigun duration later in the game from one minigun activation, and it exponentially grows. So by the late game, you basically have minigun permanently active in fights. It's really, really, really strong once you've stacked it up. It also makes it very beneficial if you're against like a Samuro because his clones are very, very easy to hit, right? His clones will just stand in lane. You can just freely stack in the rhythm. Or if they have a Chen, he's constantly shielding, you can just stand there and stack. Rexar, you can attack the Misha, and a lot of other heroes you can do the same kind of thing. So let's talk about level 7 talents. We have Quarterback, Concussion Grenade, and Relentless Soldier. So Quarterback and Relentless Soldier are both very good. Concussion Grenade, not so much. So the reason Concussion Grenade isn't so good is because, well, it's not bad, but it just doesn't really do much for you. So it increases the radius, so it makes this a little bit wider, and it increases the knockback distance. So you can see the knockback distance isn't even that much, but it also makes it so that you pretty much, a lot of time you'll just miss out on kills because you're trying to go for a kill and you knock them back too far or something. And it's just too finicky to use and it just doesn't really give you anything out of the talent. The other option here is Quarterback, which increases the range of frag grenade by 50%. You can see here, this is without Quarterback, and this is with Quarterback. The range is significantly increased, and this really, really helps for trying to finish off kills. And like I said, it does quite a bit of damage for just like a utility ability, so it's really good for nuking heroes. And the utility this gives you is too much to pass up, because usually you're just using it for the interrupt effect or for poke or for nuking heroes. You're not really using it for utility, which is what Concussion Grenade here does. Relentless Soldier is also a really good option if the enemy team has a lot of stuns and roots. So if they have like a Malfurion, if they have Azul, if they have an ETC, a Kerrigan, Tyrande, 25% resistance is not a joke. That's a huge significant CC reduction. So even remember Dahaka and Johanna and Diablo all have stuns in their kits, right? Johanna's Condemn is a mini stun, Diablo's Charge is a mini stun, and Dahaka's Tongue is also a stun. So those all count as stuns and basically give you 25% damage reduction, which is again really strong. So let's talk about level 10 here. Okay, so level 7, take Relentless Soldier if they have CC, and if they don't, take Quarterback. At level 10, you want to go Commandeer Odin most of the time, and sometimes you'll go Dragon Laser Drill. Okay, so let's talk about what these abilities do. So Commandeer Odin calls down an Odin, and it increases the damage, increases your damage, and gives you 6% increased attack range. And you have different abilities, and you also take 25% less damage, and it lasts 23 seconds. So 23 seconds is a really long duration. So it also does something else, which it doesn't say on the tooltip, is that when you're actually calling down the Odin, you are unstoppable. So remember, unstoppable means that you're basically cleansed. So this has a lot of uses. So when you're calling it down here, you're unstoppable. And let's just look at the abilities quickly. So his Q is Annihilate, damage in a straight line. W is Ragnarok missiles. So after a short duration, you shoot missiles, and it also slows. And you can just auto attack, and his E is just his dash again. So basically, you just spam your W, Q, or your QW, and you use dash to move around. And note that the dash in the Odin is a separate cooldown from running gun. Okay, so the Odin dash you can use right before it pops out, and you can dash again once you're out. So that can help you give you like double the amount of dashes that you have. So the thing I want to talk about is when you're calling that Odin down, the unstoppable effect is really useful for a lot of different situations. So the enemy team is about to engage on you, say your Azul root is about to hit, or you're about to get gusted or something, you can use that. You can call down that Odin and prevent that CC. Or if you're going to get comboed or something, and remember, it instantly gives you 25% resistance as well while you're in the Odin. It also gives you an extra dash if your dash is on cooldown. So it has a lot of other effects as well. So imagine you're on you're fighting on the and since it has a little bit of channel time, imagine like Diablo apocs you and you can't escape the apoc. So instead of trying to escape it, you just call down your Odin and you can use that stun duration when you be unstoppable anyway to actually just channel the Odin. So the Odin is just really good in team fights. You want to call it down though as a team fight is starting or just prior to it starting. So you want to make sure that you don't try not to activate it in the middle of a team fight. You're generally better off using the Odin instead of just using Tychus' normal power because the Odin has a lot more range and it can kite really effectively. It does AoE damage, which is something that Tychus really lacks in team fights, and it has a really long duration, so you're gonna get a lot of effectiveness out of it. Enemy team, for the most part, a lot of times they can't fight under Odin. It just does too much damage, and you'll win a lot of fights. Enemy team does try to fight under Odin. So the other option you have here is Draken Laser Drill.
Choose a
So let's
talent.
look at the drill here. And the drill calls down a drill. It doesn't actually show the range on it for some reason. I think that's a bug. The range is, somewhat short. And something interesting is when you call it down, so what it does is you call down a drill and you attack nearby enemies, and it does single target damage. It lasts for 22 seconds, and you can body block terrain. So if I call it down here, you can see that I can't walk through it. So I can't walk through this little area here. This actually blocks off. And remember, here different heroes have different widths on them. So like a Diablo might not be able to walk through here. So you can use it to like make it a one-way entry. and make it and kind of kite around it as well. So when is this drill good? Well, it's good for heroes that are kind of really mobile. It's a really good counter to Illidan. It's a really good counter to Tracer. So heroes where you want to zone and they're kind of vulnerable, but they're kind of difficult to do damage to is when you might want to get drill. In every other situation though, I'd recommend just going Odin. So at level 13, we have That's the Stuff, Neo Steel Coating, and Pray and Spray. Okay, so I don't know if it's worth talking about these, but That's the Stuff is what you're going to want to take pretty much every time. And the reason you want to take it is because it's just, it's really, really powerful. So what it does is the damage the minigun deals heals you for 100% of it. So you can see here if I take damage and I go and attack this and I activate my D, heals you for a lot. Okay. So obviously this target dummy, you can see that it does a lot of damage, right? So percent damage is a lot. It's 160. So that's saying 2% of the health is 160. Anyway, you're not gonna heal for that much because this target dummy has a lot of health, but you still heal for a significant amount. And when you have In the Rhythm, you're gonna heal for a ton because it's gonna have a lot of duration. I mean, if you have a bigger they are, it's gonna heal for 4%, and you're gonna heal for a lot that way as well. So this just makes it so you have even more sustain in fights. So not only do you have Relentless, but now you have a heal. And the heal is really, really, really strong. Neil Steel Coating you can activate to reduce ability damage by 50%. It's basically Spell Shield. And Spray and Pray you can increase the range, Overkill's range by 25%. I never like Spray and Pray ever. Um, Sometimes if they have a lot of burst, I'm talking about like a lot of burst, you can go Neil Steel Coating, but for the most part, you just go That's the Stuff. We have a couple more options here. So Titan Grenade, uh, Lead Rain, and Armor Piercing Rounds. So the two options. So I used to strictly go Armor Piercing Rounds because it increases Overkill's damage to the primary target by 50%. That's a huge increase for a talent. 50% damage increase is a lot. The problem is that Titan Grenade, well, it's not a problem, but Titan Grenade actually does do quite a bit of effectiveness. It does 5% enemy's max health in addition to the damage it already deals. So the enemy team has a lot of tanks, and you don't really want to get close enough to use Overkill. Then Titan Grenade can be really good poke against the enemy team and really good kind of help to burst down enemies. So Titan Grenade, if they have double tank or something, is better. If they don't have double tank, then you're probably better off going armor piercing rounds. Lead Rain slows the target by 20%, and it's also any target that's hit by Overkill, so the AoE will also slow enemies, but it's only 20%. I don't really think it's worth it. I think you get more benefit out of going Titan Grenade or Armor Piercing Round. So Titan Grenade is standard. At level 20, you have a few options. So we have Big Red Button, which makes Odin last 50% longer, and Ragnarok missiles also launch a nuclear missile. So the nuclear missile is basically a it's like I was gonna say a nuke, but yeah, it's literally a nuke. So it does the W does like 250 damage. The nuke will do like 700, and it's a bit delayed after, so it just comes down with a big nuke. So that helps for do damage. But the bigger effectiveness of this is that it lasts 50% longer, so it has a 23-second duration. So 50% of that is significantly like it's a very, very, very long duration. You're gonna be able to really get a lot of effectiveness out of Odin. It basically lasts the entire team fight. Focusing diode increases the range of Dragon Laser Drill by 50% and increases, and the longer it remains on a single target, it deals more damage, up to 100% increase. Sizzling attacks makes all of your basic attacks do 1% of the target's max health, um, and it stacks with minigun, so minigun will do 3% instead of 2%. So this is really, really strong. And Bob and Weave makes it so that you get 2 additional charges, and this also benefits the Odin. So the Odin will have 2 additional charges of running gun, and it reduces the mana cost. So these are all good talents, honestly. Tychus is one of the few heroes that actually has really good level 20 talents. And Big Red Button, if you have Odin, you want to look at Big Red Button or Bob and Weave. So you probably want to go Big Red Button, but if they do have a lot of dive, then you want to go Bob and Weave. If you went drill, you always want to go focusing diodes. And okay, so sometimes if you did go, um, I don't even think you would go sizzling attacks, pretty much in any situation, or very rarely at least. So they'd have to have a lot of tanks, to get value from this talent, and you'd have to be able to actually get the effectiveness out of sizzling attacks by having a lot of the fight will have to last a long period of time. Most of the time, though, you're probably just better off going big red button. But if they do have a lot of tanks and a lot of frontline, you could be better off just going sizzling attacks. So if you're able to play really safe in fights and you don't need to use Odin, you'll actually do more damage up close. But if you do activate Odin, it's kind of a safer, reliable AoE, more damage kind of situation. But if you just really want to shred tanks and sizzling attacks, it can be good. Hope that's not too complicated. Uh, but most of the time, just go big red button. If they have a lot of dive, go bob and weave. If you're able to play really safe, go sizzling. And if you took drill, go focusing diodes. That's pretty much the rundown. So overall, when do you want to take Tychus? Tychus fits into pretty much any comp. He fits on any map. He's just a really strong hero overall. He's literally good on any map, and he's just a really good choice for any team. He's not really countered by anything, but he counters a lot and he stops a lot of things, and he fits in a lot with a lot of teams. He's better if your team has a lot of lockdown and CC because the longer the enemy that you're attacking is locked down, the more effectiveness you can gain out of minigun and the more damage that you can do. So try to pick him. Try to have CC in your team, like even like a Malfurion or something, or an ETC, where you have lockdown on your team, you have CC, you have roots or something, but you don't need to. He's still going to be good in pretty much any situation. The counter to Tychus in the situation where you don't want to pick him in, but yeah, he is good in pretty much any comp, but he is a little bit worse versus heroes that have a lot of range. So if the enemy team has a lot like triple range or something, you probably don't want Tychus because he's anti frontline. He's not anti range. Uh, he's outranged by a lot of heroes because his range is obviously so short. So if he's in Odin, he can counter those heroes really well. But if he's not in Odin, you're gonna get countered because his range is so short. Because you're not gonna be able to walk up and minigun Li Ming or something. And of course, that since those heroes have lower health pools, minigun is less effective because it does percent max health. So that's the video for today, and that's what all I wanted to talk about. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching.